Let's talk about Israel. Just a few stories here. The Israel carried out strikes in Syria for the first time in nearly a month. 27 days ago was the last time Israel bombed Syria before this past Tuesday. They bombed southern Syria, kind of the area near the Israeli border. There's also reports that Israel carried out some airstrikes, but also dropped leaflets over Syria, warning Syria forces that they'll continue to be casualties in Israeli airstrikes if they continue to associate with Iranian-backed Shia forces. Other things going on. Israel seized a box of chocolate bars bound for Gaza. The Israeli defense minister Benny Gantz announced Monday that Israel had confiscated 23 tons of chocolate bars that were to be imported into the Gaza Strip. Israel officials say they were concerned the attempted acquisition was suspicious. And so those poor Gazans who, for them, chocolate's, a real luxury item, won't even be able to enjoy a little bit of that because Israel just wants to make them suffer, especially the people of Gaza, so they steal even their chocolate. Then I believe a day after or 2 days after, a militant in Gaza fired a rocket at Israel that was intercepted by the Israeli Iron Dome. This all according to Israel. I didn't see any statements from Hamas or any other groups in Gaza, and I didn't see that Israel carried out an airstrike in response to this. Now, Israel has been bombing Gaza pretty regularly since the May 11th ceasefire was agreed to. Israel says this is because Gaza is launching incendiary balloons over the border fence, and Gaza, or the people of Gaza, specifically Hamas, say that they're doing that in response to Israeli not living up their commitments to lift restrictions on things coming out of and going into Gaza. Things like the chocolate bars might be a good example. The U.S. State Department condemned Israeli plans to build 2,200 new settler homes in the West Bank. The U.S. had told Israel to knock off the settlement expansions in the West Bank previously. I'm kind of surprised that they followed through on this condemnation, though, because I believe this plan, Israel originally wanted 3,200 new settler homes. They scaled this back to 2,200, and they also said that they would approve 1,000 new Palestinian homes. Now, not that I think those Palestinian homes will actually end up getting built, but I would thought that that was kind of good enough propaganda to sell the State Department, but we got condemnation from the State Department anyways. So that was one of the better things to see from Biden's administration on Israel. This last story here on Israel from the Israeli foreign minister, he says he sees no good alternatives to the Iran nuclear deal. Israel's foreign minister is Yair Lapid, and I believe he is the man set to become the prime minister of Israel if there's not new elections or a new, the parliament falls apart and they have the new power sharing agreement come into play in like maybe 14 months or so. He has to go. So this is something positive coming from an Israeli politician, although he says, I am not a supporter of the deal. I think the deal is not right. I've said all along, and I'll say it now, I just don't see a plan B. And so, he's kind of saying that at this point, the deal is better than not having a deal at all. And if that were the position of the Israeli prime minister, that would be a good thing. Unfortunately, there's no way in hell that the JCPOA flounders for the next 14 months or however long it is before Lapid becomes president of Israel, or prime minister of Israel. And in the meantime, I think Joe Biden will go ahead and stick the wooden stake in the heart of the Iran nuclear deal.